Chapter 58-91. Because he had been staring at the altar, neither he nor Hungmu felt it. It was Danbao who was on the side, who realized that something was wrong, and quickly shouted at the two of them. Those statues seemed to be alive. What? This time, without any hesitation, he quickly stopped the power of life gathered in his hands. He turned around and rushed out. The outside statues have changed positions. It seems that it really moved just now. Seeing this, the Lord of Hungmu was a little anxious, and hurriedly urged, "Don't worry about those statues, they are almost there now, even if they are alive, it doesn't matter, as long as we go in before they fully recover." The more he said that, the less anxious Jian Wushuang became. This made the Lord of Hungmu very anxious. He hurriedly greeted Wu Li, who was on the side, to come forward to persuade him. "Brother Wushuang, this is not the time to play petty temper. When King Shenmu brings people, we will be finished." Wu Li tried hard to persuade. Jian Wushuang was indifferent, turned his head to look at Wu Li slowly, and said, "What benefits did Hungmu give you?" This sentence stopped Wu Li directly. The master of Hungmu is his master. When he was still an ordinary person, he picked up a branch and embarked on the road of self-cultivation. Everything that was promised at the beginning has been done. The old was family, Guangzhong Yaozu. He himself became immortal. Then set up the Wu family later, and become the ancestor by yourself. All the way to the Lord of the Universe. His dream has long since come true. Now it's just to repay the favor, and he also wants to go up a step. Wu Li didn't know much about the master of Hengma's plan. But since he became the master of the universe, the master of constant wood has been instilling in him about the sacred wood of Wanliu for a long time. This matter had already taken root in his heart. If you don't enter Wanliu, you will have regrets in this life. Now being asked by Jian Wushuang, he really stopped him. "Me." Wu Li turned his head and glanced at Hungmu, then at Jian Wushuang again, and said firmly, "Of course, it is to become stronger, Jian Wushuang, and we are not children anymore. Why bother to pursue too much? As long as we enter Wanliu Shenmu, my master will definitely not let you down." Choosing between Jian Wushuang and the Lord of Hungmu, Wu Li must choose the latter. Jian Wushuang was not surprised when he said this. But this kind of words have been said since the common times. Now that Jian Wushuang heard such words, he was like air. If there is no change here, he will still write some letters. When the time comes to enter Wanliu Shenmu, at worst, they will go their separate ways. But this kind of thing happened before entering Wanliu Shenmu. The sculptures outside have recovered one after another. Each is powerful. Why doesn't Jian Wushuang worry about this? In case his power of life is not the channel to get through the Wanliu Shenmu. Instead, they revived the statues. That would be a big fool. Who knows what will become of these carvings? After recovery, who will listen to? On both sides of the altar and the three statues above it, there is at least the aura of the 7 tribulations realm, or even the 8 tribulations realm. It's not good for them to come back to life. Before the Shenmu king came, he had to die on the spot. So he didn't dare to continue injecting life force into the altar. Unless Ji is the master of Hungmu, he can give a reason. Or be able to explain the current situation. There is no trace of the passage, not even a sign. Instead, carving began to recover. "Hungmu, now you make the oath of your own life, promise to take me into Wanliu, and don't hurt us people. I will continue to inject the power of life, otherwise don't even think about it." Jian Wushuang felt the pressure from afar, and also I know it's no good to procrastinate. You can only choose to avoid risks. Let the Lord of Everwood make this oath. He could see that the current state of the Lord of Hungmu was not weak, he was a scattered calamity in the 7 tribulations realm. In terms of divine power, at least 2 million. If he was still an emperor, he might be manipulated arbitrarily by the opponent. The oath that Wu Li made back then was aimed at Wu Li. He has never made any oaths with the Lord of Hungmu. Seeing this, Wu Li also turned his head to look at the master of Hungmu, and said respectfully, "Master, why don't you make an oath first, so that Brother Wushuang and the others can rest assured?" "Shut up," the Lord of Hungmu shouted angrily. This angry shout startled Wu Li. "I don't know why, the Lord of Hungmu is so angry. It's all your fault, you bastard. You insisted on helping Zhen Wushuang overcome the catastrophe. If he hadn't successfully overcome the catastrophe, would I still need to beg you so much? The Lord of Hungmu no longer concealed himself, and changed his body shape immediately. In appearance, the original green tree man's body turned into a dark red tree trunk battle armor. The breath is also constantly improving, and this breath is no longer the power of life, but a terrifying force of destruction. After Wu Li saw this scene, he felt incredible. Compared with the master he had seen in the past, the gap was too great. For a while, it was simply unacceptable. Finally, your true face has been revealed. The two vows are so simple, and you don't want to make them. I'm afraid you never thought of taking us into Wanliu. Isn't this place the passage to enter Wanliu? Zhen Wushuang sneered. Moreover, the Lord of Hungmu didn't even discuss it, so he turned his face directly, probably because of his attention and the treasure in Danbao's body. Zhen Wushuang felt disgusted when he thought of Wu Li's crotch in front of the Great Elder. Wu Li leaned towards Zhen Wushuang with some hesitation at this time, but he was only followed by cold eyes. Bulu and Danbao definitely believed in Zhen Wushuang. The Lord of Hungmu sneered, and said, I wanted to use you again, but I didn't expect you to see the problem so quickly, so I just sent you on the road first. What a big breath! Bruce stepped forward immediately, his breath shook, and the divine power of 2 million exploded directly. Zhen Wushuang also directly performed the super-eternal transformation. Ready to go. Wanliu Shenma's plan has since become a joke. Hungmu, you don't think that you can handle us after resuscitating a few rotten fish and rotten shrimps? He pulled out the sword of myriad tribulations, and the terrifying power of the starry sky suddenly rose. This power made everyone terrified. Really? The Lord of Hungmu waved his hand and shouted angrily, Zwe Yehue. Boom. The mountain began to vibrate. Zhen Wushuang turned his head to look at the sculpture on the left side of the altar. The dark green stone shell on the sculpture's body began to fall off, and a terrifying desolate beast began to recover. Not good, back quickly. Zhen Wushuang took Danbao and Bulu with each hand, rushed out of the mountain, and reached the top of the valley in a blink of an eye. At this moment, King Shenmu and others also arrived. Seeing Zhen Wushuang and others fleeing, the Shenmu king was not surprised, but said calmly, Where are we going to escape? Zhen Wushuang also saw the Shenmu king and the others. To provide you with the fastest update of WN Dao Zhen Zun, which costs money to kill the master, so that you can check the fastest update of this book next time, please be sure to save the bookmark. Chapter 5891 Torn Face is free to read. Chapter 5892. The 9 Great Elders, each with 2 million supernatural powers. The 18 core elders have supernatural powers around 1.8 million. Not to mention King Shenmu, just these people besieged them, and they all had enough to drink a pot. Now, it's really over. If he knew it, he would not run away, and would fight directly with the Lord of Hungmu. He still thinks everything is too simple. I feel that no matter how bad the Lord of Hungmu is, he will be able to bring them into Wanliu Shenmu. At that time, no matter what calculations you have, you will be able to escape. But who could have imagined that the plan that had been talked for so long became a joke in the end? The Lord of Eternal would wanted to take them into Wanliu at all. In other words, Wanliu may really not be able to enter. It's just a cover for the Lord of Hungmu to come here to revive carving. All of them were fooled. Shenmu King, the Lord of Hungmu is below, he is almost entering Wanliu Shenmu, why don't you stop him? Zhen Wushuang still wanted to borrow the plan of the Lord of Hungmu to fool some Shenmu kings. Since the Shenmu king had grievances with the Lord of Hungmu, he must be aware of the fact that the Lord of Hungmu had entered Wanliu. Just let them fight first. But he just said it, but it caused Shenmu Wang to ridicule. Looked at him like a fool. This is the first time that the old man has heard such a ridiculous thing for thousands of years. King Shenmu turned his head and motioned to the few elders behind him to go down and take a look, then looked at Zhen Wushuang, and said, Don't use these things to deceive a 3-year-old child. Simple, you have the complete innate life force, how can you be so innocent, and cooperate with the waste of Hungmu? Why not come to the old man? Looking for you. Zhen Wushuang secretly said in his heart, Looking for you doesn't die faster. I want to roll my eyes, but dare not. The other party broke his plan at once. Just as Shenmu Wang said. No one knows Wanliu Shenmu better than him. How could it be as simple as Hungmu said? Just go in. What does this take, Wan Liu? King Shenmu has been in Wanliu for so many years, I'm afraid he has already talked about it all over the periphery. I'm afraid this place has long been known. If you really want to enter from here, he probably entered long ago. Need innate life force, the big deal is blood sacrifice. Although a huge number is required, the Gumu school controls so many wild worlds. Cobble together, and you can get it together. Why didn't you do this? Jian Wushuang hated his own stupidity secretly. Before he entered, he should have thought of it. At that time, if he went to escape, there might be hope. Now, difficult. Jian Wushuang, there are 2 paths before you now. First, follow me back to the Gumu sect. I can let you be the head of the Gumu sect and be on an equal footing with the old man. 2. Take down the Lord of Hungmu and help me recover a treasure. I will bring you into Wanliu. There is only one chance. You have to think clearly before answering. Shenmu Wang transmitted sound to him. It means that these 2 things do not want outsiders to know. And these 2 choices are to take refuge in the Shenmu King. Doesn't that mean there is no choice? Jian Wushuang is a bit tangled. King Shenmu spoke again at this time and said loudly, I can do the second without you, but it will waste some time, and you just waste some continuous vitality. I suggest you choose the latter, and I can make an oath to keep you safe, and you can walk sideways in Gumu continent. Gu oath. This time Jian Wushuang was tempted. You can enter Wanliu Shenmu by wasting some life force. Isn't this the same as Hengma's previous plan? It's just some life force, which is nothing to him. It can also guarantee his safety. This condition, it sounds, is much stronger than Hengma's. And the words of King Shenmu are also convincing. Just as he was about to agree, an astonishing breath exploded in the valley below. Boom! After a loud noise, the several elders of the ancient wood faction who had entered the valley earlier fled back in embarrassment. Following that, there was a terrifying wild beast. Zhuo Yehui. Jian Wushuang and Shenmu Wang said each other's name in unison. This is the statue that has just been resurrected by the Lord of Eternal Wood. King Shenmu turned his head and glanced at Jian Wushuang, and hurriedly asked, How much life force have you injected into the altar? This question stopped him. For a time, it can't be counted how many, can only vaguely say, it can almost revive a dying 8 tribulations realm. You are so courageous, don't you see the weirdness of this place? Shenmu Wang exclaimed Jian Wushuang's courage. He had discovered this place long ago. It was formed after the Lord of Hungmu left the 10,000 Willow Divine Realm. These statues were originally living creatures. And it is the life in the sacred tree of Wanliu. It was brought out by the Lord of Hungmu. After being brought out, the Lord of Eternal would use the altar to absorb all the vitality of these wild beasts into his body. These powerful beasts turned into statues. The plan of the Lord of Hungmu is not to enter the Wanliu Shenmu at all, but to revive these statues and seek revenge from the Shenmu King. King Shenmu was afraid of this, and immediately asked directly, Will the right eye and the monk also recover? Is this enough? Jian Wushuang thought for a moment. There is a sculpture on the left and right sides of the altar. On the altar, there is also a wooden monk with an open breast. These 2 people didn't move at all. Looking at the expression of Shenmu Wang, it is obvious that he is very jealous of these statues. Fortunately, it's just a left night ash, and the old man can deal with it. If you Yebai and the old monk both recover, then you will cause a catastrophe. It seems that your vitality is indeed extraordinary. In such a short period of time, able to revive Zhuo Yehui. Shenmu King's complexion recovered for a while, not forgetting to brag about Jian Wushuang's vitality. Zhuo Yehui rose into the sky. After floating in the air, it turned into a human form, dressed in grey, with a face like lime, his eyes rolled, finally leaking a trace of white eyeballs, staring at the crowd for a circle, his eyes on Shenmu the king stopped. These years, are you peeping at me and waiting? King Shenmu nodded, and said calmly, Yes, you guys drawn out of the willows, of course, You have to be optimistic, otherwise I will cause some trouble for you, and I won't end up. Do you think it can end now? Zhuo Yehui's figure was shaken, and he instantly arrived in front of King Shenmu. I'm half talking, and I'm ready to do it. No wonder King Shenmu told them to step back first. The fight between the two was fierce. Fortunately, this place is God's domain. Otherwise, this place can be completely destroyed in one blow. But even so, half of the valley was ruined. Chapter 58-93. Zhuo Yehui, I know you. When he escaped with Hongmu, he had calculated you like this, so why bother to help him? Shenmu King has been suppressing his divine power, and now he is equal to Zhuo Yehui. I want to persuade each other. Zhuo Yehui was like a puppet, silent, just attacking. King Shenmu also found the strangeness, as if he had come to understand it. It seems that you have been controlled by this guy Hongmu, so there is no need to talk nonsense with you. Shenmu King suddenly broke out, smashing Zhuo Yehui into the valley with a punch. Divine power also began to explode at this moment. That powerful force shook God's domain. King Shenmu clenched his fists with both hands and yelled. His divine power directly reached a terrifying figure. The old man has endured for so many years, I don't know if you can carry it next. King Shenmu looked down at the valley below, his figure disappeared in a flash. Then, violent fluctuations erupted in the valley below. Jian Wushuang stood in the air and looked shocked. Just after the eruption of the Shenmu King, the divine power at that moment, he felt that it was comparable to Kai Jiuxiao. Too strong. It is definitely the peak combat power of the 8 Tribulations realm. Zhuo Yehui's strength is also good. After transforming his body, he was able to compete against the Shenmu King. However, it has been underwind, and the death fight is definitely not the opponent of Shenmu King. But it is impossible for the battle to be resolved quickly. This also made him think, should he take the opportunity to escape? Turned his head and glanced around. 27 in the 7 Tribulations realm. There are 9 divine powers over 2 million. These people surrounded him, obviously on guard. If he dares to flee now, even if these people can't stop him, Shenmu King will probably come as soon as possible. At that time, it will not be the same as it is now. I'm afraid he will be banned. He can't gamble anymore. Perhaps now is not the time, there will be more strong people coming. The more people there are, the greater his chances. After transmitting the sound to Bru and Dan Bao next to them, after reassuring them, they waited quietly for the next change of things. The battle in the valley continued. But he hasn't seen the shadow of the Lord of Hongmu for a long time. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed, thinking of the altar. Although the life force of the Lord of Eternal Wood is very small. But it also has almost infinite vitality. As long as there is enough time, it is enough to revive the white right eye and the old monk in the mouth of King Shenmu. If these two recover, I am afraid that Shenmu King will not be an opponent. Do you want to remind me? He was a little tangled in his heart. If reminded, King Shenmu goes to the trouble of the Lord of Hongmu, and then the Lord of Hongmu is violently killed. He chose the conditions offered by King Shenmu. If not reminded. After waiting for the other two to recover, Shenmu King lost. He took the opportunity to escape. It is also a way. He was afraid of letting out more horror. GUU time and space will really change. But it's fine if the weather changes. The big deal, he patted his and left. Go to other time and space, or go directly to Qi Temple. With such a long journey, he still has a long time to practice. Simply ignore things here. No matter how much love is, let it be noisy. Isnt there another GUU Ejiao carrying it. Ancient Moon God Sect. 9-star Sect. That was the master of the universe with the 8 Tribulations realm. And he is the master of the universe at the pinnacle of the 8 Tribulations realm. With the original universe coming directly, suppressing these things is not a problem. But then I thought about it. I am afraid that all news from the outside world has been blocked now. GU Mu sect definitely does not want outsiders to know his existence. Otherwise, all the powerhouses from the 9 heavens and 10 earth rush in. At that time, the advantage will not lie in the GU Mu faction. Valley, now I close the door and endure even if I get beaten. Emperor Bobby, why don't you come? Jian Wushuang frowned. He now hopes that Emperor Bobby will come. The messier the better. The power of life is also needed for Barbie Di to create the path to resurrection. There is endless vitality in the Wanliu Shenmu. In the valley, King Shenmu broke out completely, directly pressing Zhuo Yehui and violently hitting him. Divine power is constantly soaring. Zhuo Yehui has reached the limit. The top combat power of the 8 Tribulations realm. There are 8 million divine powers. But he was still beaten up by King Shenmu. Fortunately, the divine body is strong enough to resist it. In the mountains, in front of the altar, the Lord of Eternal would ignored the fighting outside and was still pouring life force into the altar. Wu Li stood beside him. Wu Li stared at the wooden monk above the altar with dull eyes. The eyes have been demented. The Lord of Hungmu didn't have time to talk to Wu Li. In his opinion, Wu Li's value has been used up. This is the end of a mentoring and apprenticeship. If he succeeds in revenge in the future, he kills the Shenmu king to take back the treasure. Go to the top again. Then give Wu Li some benefits. It's just that I don't have time to think about this now. The statue on the right side of the altar began to tremble. Lord Hungmu excitedly said, right eye is white, revive. The left knight is grey, and the right eye is white. These 2 wars will once recover. It has been able to be equal to the Shenmu king. Then he can revive the wooden monk with all his heart. Once the monk recovers, he can win. Now I can only say that I won half of it. After the white statue of the right eye trembled, like Zhuo Yehui, began to drop stone shells. Eventually leaked out of the body. Quickly, go out to help Zhuo Yehui and withstand the Shenmu king, the Lord of Hungmu directly ordered. There was no hesitation in the white of his right eye, his voice was like a puppet, he answered, and his figure flashed out of the mountain. Boom! He directly smashed the wall and rushed out of the mountain. This shocked the Lord of Hungmu. As soon as he looked up, he saw the figure of King Shenmu. But he was stopped by the white of his right eye. The 2 battles of Yehui on the left and white on the right will be at the same time against the god of war Wood King. King Shenmu completely stopped. King Shenmu also found the altar and the Lord of Hungmu. He thought the Lord of Hungmu had escaped long ago, but he didn't expect to be still here. My heart suddenly panicked. You also control the innate life force? Shenmu Wang couldn't believe it. He obviously got the most core treasure. Why is he not mastering the power of innate life? The Lord of Hungmu sneered, turned his head and prepared to continue to inject life force. But because of this gap, he noticed Wu Li's eyes. Following that direction, he raised his head and looked at the top of the altar. It's okay not to look at it, this look shocked him. There was no wooden monk above the altar at this time, but a true monk was lying on his stomach. An old monk in rags and dirty clothes. Originally, the old monk just stared at Wu Li. When he found the Lord of Hungmu looked at him, he turned his gaze back to look at Hungmu. Little guy, isn't it surprising? The old monk jumped directly from above and stood in front of the Lord Hungmu. He digs out his ears with his dirty paws, but he punches him with a smile on his face. Directly blast the Lord of Hungmu out of the mountain. Then he walked towards Wu Li carelessly. Chapter 58-94. Wu Li also returned to reality from dementia at this time, but he was even more demented now, standing still not daring to move. The old monk is moody, but his combat power is extremely terrifying. Coming to Wu Li's side, his dirty arms hugged Wu Li's neck directly, and then he said, "Little guy, oh no, you are also an old guy. I think you have a very unique bone, which fits Lao Tzu's eyes. Do you want to follow me in the future?" "You are right." Wu Li didn't dare to breathe, so he nodded frantically. "Think that what the old monk said is right. Don't be afraid, your bones won't come out for 10,000 years, but I sincerely treat you as a son, don't let me down." The old monk dragged Wu Li out of the mountain. Lord Hungmu also got up at this time, his eyes full of shock. "How is this possible? I have already controlled him clearly, so how can I still attack me?" He couldn't figure it out. After he brought these guys out of the willows, he used the altar to turn them all into statues, and then they were enslaved by secret methods. Save it later when you need it, and then recover. Why is it recovering now? Everyone else is fine, and the old monk is out of control. And also attacked him. Seeing the other party still carrying Wu Li, he instantly understood. And during the recovery, there is no use for any movement. It seems that something went wrong with the secret method. Thinking of this, he regretted the original choice. All this is because of Wu Li. He shouldn't be selected from Wanliu when he initially selected the target for training. As a result, now because Wu Li is alone, he loses all the games. Hungmu, you brought up my cheap son very well, so I decided to let you die later. The old monk was still mad. But Wu Li found the point from this sentence. Son. Who is your son? But he didn't dare to say it, just complained in his heart. Then he thought about him in detail. Born in a mundane family, my father was a carpenter, and his ancestors had never been a monk for 3 generations. No matter how you plan, I feel that the other party is talking nonsense. But the old monk didn't care. He turned his head to look at Wu Li, and said, "Are you not convinced?" Wu Li nodded and shook his head again. If he really gave him an invincible father, he should be happy. Thinking of this, he directly called Dad. "My father is here, please be respected by the children." The old monk was extremely happy when he heard these words, and slapped Wu Li's head with a slap. Wu Li, the master of the universe in the 5 tribulations realm, could bear this, and his figure fell below in a flash. At the same time, he was cursing secretly from the bottom of my heart, "This Lao Tzu may not be a good person." Upon seeing this, the old monk took out his crotch, and said with a hippie smile, "I'm sorry, I just recovered, I don't have enough strength." After talking about the figure, he followed and picked up Wu Li from scratch. Looking at Wu Li who was half dead, the old monk scratched his crotch again, and in a blink of an eye, he rubbed a black ball. Wu Li half opened his eyes, seeing this scene with all his desire to die. Hastily prevented the old monk from doing anything. But his strength is not as strong as that of the old monk. So I can only shut up and don't eat. Observe, otherwise the old man will lose his temper. The old monk glared, almost scared Wu Li to death, and finally opened his mouth reluctantly. Seeing this, the old monk said, "That's right. From now on I will be your father. If anyone bullies you, you will report my name." Wu Li didn't know whether he was answering the old monk or swallowing the black ball himself. There was something stuck in the throat. Speaking is a bit uncomfortable. However, after that thing turned into a docile force and entered his source, his expression was suddenly overjoyed. A force from the supreme rule began to condense in his origin. This scene also happened in Vietnam. The Wu family of Yu State was only in the middle. The original universe of Wu Li is here. It's just in the air, corresponding to the ground. In his original universe, he began to converge. This is the 6th calamity. Because of a black ball, he actually started to cross the catastrophe. Just a black ball can make him overcome the catastrophe instantly. At this moment, he wanted to eat another black ball. Although it was rubbed from the crotch of the old monk, he wanted to eat it. This 6th calamity is so easy. And it was very easy. Whether it is the supreme tribulation, or the amount of tribulation on the body. Wu Li, who had $1 million power, took it down easily. Some are lucky, some are unlucky. Such as the Lord of Constant Wood. Although he controls the 2 beasts of the left Yehue and the right eye white. It is a pity that the old monk has not been completely taken down, which is still a disadvantage for him. Shunmu King is entangled with the 2 war beasts. The Lord of Hungmu can only face the old monk alone. The battle in the valley slowed down after the old monk appeared. Shunmu King's complexion was a bit embarrassing, he was still able to deal with the 2 war beasts, but after the old monk came out, the situation was a bit difficult to control. "Yeah, why didn't you fight?" The old monk sat casually on a pile of rocks, and Wu Li stood behind him honestly. Jian Wushuang in the sky can see clearly. He never expected that Wu Li's identity was so complicated. From an abandoned son, he instantly became a key figure in control of the situation. Sometimes, luck is so wonderful. Change again and again. After the two war beasts received the order of the Lord of Constant Wood, they stopped and turned into human forms one after another, standing behind the Lord of Constant Wood. "You old thing, I shouldn't get you out of the rescue." The Lord of Hungmu was furious, regretting that he shouldn't have taken the old monk away from the willows, and shouldn't use Wu Li as a pawn. Because of the treasure brought by the Lord of Hungmu, Shenmu King, coupled with these years of investigation, also has a general understanding of this matter. Originally thought that the old monk was with the Lord of Hungmu, now it seems that the old monk is not under Hengmu's control at all. This is to his advantage. It's better than letting the Lord of Hungmu be big alone. Especially when you see that two people are still wrong, this is even better. The outside air is good, I finally let Lao Tzu escape from it, and no one will want to sway me in the future. The old monk slowly stood up, his breath exploded. That powerful divine power vaguely surpassed the Shenmu King. The people in the air were also taken aback. Especially Bulu and Danbao. The two of them don't know much about the outside world. Unexpectedly, just after following Jian Wushuang to leave the infinite world, he would encounter a strong man who was 100 times stronger than Gula. For a time, a little confused. Jian Wushuang is the same. Chapter 5895. He just wanted to enter Wanliu to attack the Tribulation Realm. Now that he became the Lord of the Universe, he actually didn't yearn for Wanliu Shenmu that much. Mainly because of Jiang Shong. I want to see what secrets are contained in Wanliu. Good now. The Lord of Eternal Wood turned his face and was not ready to enter Wanliu again. Instead, Shenmu Wang pointed out a way for him. He was a little tempted at first, but according to the current development, he no longer wants to enter Wanliu. Not to mention the two big beasts around the Lord of Hungmu. Just say that old monk, that is, Wu Li's own father. Divine power is a bit stronger than the peak Shenmu King. He really didn't have the confidence to compete with these old guys. At least not confident now. Just wait for him to go further, maybe it's still possible. Now let's see what these big guys are going to do. Anyway, he cannot reverse the current situation. As the ruler of the ancient wood continent, Shenmu King has the aura of an innate king, no matter how powerful the old monk is or how perverse his personality is. After seeing the current situation clearly, he took the initiative to stand up. "Everyone, since you said that you escaped from Wanliu, you wouldn't have any interest in Wanliu anymore. Why don't you be happy if I send you away to see the scenery of 9 heavens and 10 places?" He spoke to the old monk and the two great beasts. It did not enclose the Lord of Eternal Wood. The Lord of Eternal Wood must stay. This is his bottom line. Except for the two big beasts to block, the old monk should not interfere. Sure enough, it was the same as he thought. The old monk laughed and said, "Hey, you little baby speaks nicely, I like and agree with it. I won't go in again in that ghost place in Wanliu." The 3 words of this little doll are particularly harsh. Shenmu Wang was very upset. He was the first generation of the 8 tribulations realm of Guu time and space, and even the first generation of Pope of Guu God sect was not qualified to call him that way. If it were not for the overall situation, he would have to blow the old monk's front teeth. I don't really think that he has this strength. He does now have the peak combat power of the year. But the peak of the year is better than his current peak. Who doesn't have a whole card yet? Knowing the character of the other party, King Shenmu simply tolerated it. And there are things that are useful to each other. Since this fellow Taoist thinks so too, it's better if we join hands. I will kill Hungmu, and I will be able to free the other 2 fellow Taoists too. After Shenmu Wang finished speaking, he looked at Zhuo Yehui. With the white of the right eye. These 2 big beasts are troublesome. You can't beat you to death. If the Lord of Hungmu relied on the 2 war beasts to escape, it would be difficult for him to chase. The old monk nodded again, and then agreed, "What you said is right, what you said is all right. That's it." The Lord of Hungmu laughed. He knows the old monk best. The more you say this, the less likely it is to cooperate. King Shenmu, what you think is really simple. Do you know the true identity of this old monk? The Lord of Hungmu couldn't help but mocked. He is the protector of the Taoist, the protector of the life force, I am not wrong. If you do, You should have tied Jian Wushuang. Do you think this old guy will cooperate with you? The Lord of Hungmu clutched his stomach and laughed out loud when he said that. I think Shenmu Wang is silly and naive. Jian Wushuang in the sky looked overjoyed when he heard this. Originally thought it was Wu Li's luck to pick up a relative. Unexpectedly, his luck was better, and he picked up a guardian for nothing. This luck finally made him run into it once. He had witnessed the strength of the old monk with his own eyes. Definitely the peak powerhouse of the 8 tribulations realm. With this person protecting him, he can walk sideways throughout GUU time and space. It doesn't matter if Wan Liu doesn't go. Going directly back to the mansion, returning to the Qi temple, and cleaning up the extinction, are all blowing the mouth. No matter how much the backhand of extinction is, no matter how strong it is. In front of the 8 tribulations realm peak powerhouse, what can be considered? Wu Li, who was behind the old monk, was also stunned when he heard the truth, and then looked at Jian Wushuang in the air. He originally thought he was hugging his thigh, but he didn't expect that this thigh was Jian Wushuang's protector, and he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. But it's good to be alive. Moreover, he is now the master of the universe in the 6 tribulations realm, and he is already very satisfied. He didn't have any interest in Wan Liu either. For a time. Only the Shenmu king was still entangled with Wanliu and the treasure in the main body of eternal wood. This is nothing. The point is that now even Jian Wushuang can't handle it anymore. The old monk slowly lifted into the sky, pointing to the Lord of Hungmu and said, "You kid, what you said is right." Immediately, he came to Jian Wushuang's side, raised his hand and waved one person to shake back the 9 great elders of the ancient wood school and the 18 core elders. The terrifying power completely separated them from Jian Wushuang and others. At this moment, the old monk's complexion became serious, his aura was calm, and he stepped out of the air and walked towards Jian Wushuang. Dan Bao behind Jian Wushuang was a little scared, and Bulu stood directly in front of Dan Bao. It is difficult for the two of them to understand what these people are saying. I just felt that the old monk's breath and threatened them, so I was a little panicked. At this time, Jian Wushuang blew his face and couldn't help but cheat. He found that Bulu and Dan Bao were a little flustered, and he quickly reached out to comfort him. "Don't be afraid, Yukanshu. Com is all his own, and we have a backing. Up." After speaking, he took the initiative to walk towards the old monk. Although he knew that the other party was his guardian, he still had to respect the strong. Although the Lord of Constant Wood in the valley was unhappy, this was a fact, and he could only accept it. I thought that if I had mastered the old monk, there would be nothing to do, but in the end, he got Jian Wushuang a guardian for nothing and lifted a rock to hit him in the foot. He also has innate vitality, so no old monk would be his protector. Thinking of leaving Wanliu, the other side looked down upon him in every possible way. Later, the old monk, the 2 war beasts, and the strong among the thousands of willows will be trapped here. Then he used the secret method of soul enslavement. Control these people. I want them to be their guardians. Now the plan is half successful. Only the old monk is out of control, and the rest have no problems. It can be regarded as a receipt. Shenmu Wang was embarrassed here. Without Jian Wushuang, there is little hope of entering Wanliu. The incomplete treasure that can only be placed on the Lord of Eternal Wood has once again increased his combat power. But this also made him lose the opportunity to climb the sky one step at a time. Otherwise, he spent so much effort planning what Wanliu would do. Treasures and opportunities in Wanliu. Far from outsiders know what it is. King Shenmu also learned something from the treasures of Lord Hungmu. There is a way in Wanliu Shenmu. That road is the road to becoming a god. That is a who transcends the tribulation realm and is not controlled by the supreme rules. Is the true of time and space. More powerful than the 9 tribulations realm. Since then escaped from time and space. Above all things. Such a pity. Chapter 5896. Shenmu King looked at Jian Wushuang and the old monk who were about to cross in the sky, muttering to himself, maybe this is fate. Jian Wushuang's strength is obvious to all. Also mastered the innate vitality. Having such an opportunity must be the blessing of the supreme rule. With this kind of chance against the sky, how can there be no protector? Everyone's eyes are full of envy and jealousy. Looked at the two intertwined people in the sky. The corners of Jian Wushuang's mouth were almost crooked, and he stretched out his hands and walked towards the old monk. The old monk also stretched out his hands and walked towards him grinning. But when the two were about to meet, Jian Wushuang was stunned. The old monk and his subtle gesture bypassed him and walked towards Dan Bao and Bulu. This scene surprised everyone. Thought the old monk was joking. How could he bypass Jian Wushuang and head towards Dan Bao? A descendant of the dragon god? How could it be related to the protector of the life force? Bulu was also very nervous, but he could see from the old monk's eyes that the other party was not malicious, so he slowly moved away. Dan Bao looked at the old monk with simple eyes, not knowing what to say. Old. The old monk stood in front of Dan Bao, first wiped his dirty paws, and then held Dan Bao's hands. Just when he wanted to speak, the old words were hung. But when he thought of someone's explanation, he immediately changed his words. Old monk, commoner monk, I have seen the little master. Such a polite name shocked everyone. Is this still the great monk who just behaved like a fool? Everyone's eyes focused on Dan Bao. I had forgotten Jian Wushuang long ago. Poor Jian Wushuang stood in the air, extremely embarrassed, wishing to rush down to find a place to get in. No matter what is good, we have to pass him by. At this time, Wu Li also rose into the sky and came to the opposite of Jian Wushuang. After finally seeing an acquaintance, I want to step forward to ease the embarrassment. Whoever came to think, Wu Li grinned, and walked around Dan Bao. Oh, this thing is making trouble. It turns out that everyone is their own, Dan Bao little brother. Wu Li wanted to step forward as he said. But before he reached Dan Bao's side, he was slapped out by the old monk. Fortunately, after controlling his strength, Wu Li only swelled up half of his face and was not injured. If the old monk really wants to do it, this slap can kill the Seven Tribulations realm. After Wu Li was photographed flying, she dared not step forward, covering her face a little aggrieved. "Mph, I can't get on the tabletop stuff." Jian Wushuang snorted coldly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he relaxed, turned around, looked at Dan Bao, and cast a look at Bulu. Tell the other party that everything is fine. Although Dan Bao was a little at a loss here, some of the follow-up old monk's voice transmission made Dan Bao understand. After nodding in a daze, Dan Bao respectfully saluted the old monk. The old monk hurriedly bowed and said, "You can't do it, the old monk can't receive gift." Seeing the other person embarrassed, Dan Bao had to get up. "Master, just call me Dan Bao in the future, and let me introduce to you, this is my perfect warrior of the Balunga tribe, Bulu, and my benefactor, Jian Wushuang." Dan Bao pointed to Bulu. Looked at Jian Wushuang again. The old monk first smiled at Bulu, then looked at Jian Wushuang, but there was a trace of killing intent in his eyes. Jian Wushuang, who originally wanted to stay ahead, could only stay in place. "It is Dan Bao's blessing that Dan Bao can meet you." Jian Wushuang arched his hands in a polite voice. "But the bottom of my heart is extremely uncomfortable. How could he be Dan Bao's protector? He has the purest life force. Why is it someone else, not him?" Just when he was puzzled, the old monk said in a cold voice, "Jian Wushuang, are you wondering now why you have the purest innate power, but you have lost to others?" This. Jian Wushuang was asked this time, blocking the face of so many people, so he won't even hit him in the face, right? If you say no, no one will believe it. The point is that he was really puzzled just now. Say yes, wouldn't it be impossible to lose? Dan Bao also felt that what the old monk said was a bit aggressive, and hurriedly pulled the corners of the old monk's clothes. When the old monk looked at Dan Bao, his complexion eased, and he comforted, "Don't worry, the little master, he is the benefactor of the little master, just like the benefactor of the old monk. I will not be embarrassed, but his doubts will not be relieved, but instead it will be against him." Jian Wushuang coughed dryly. Since the other party had said so, he could only admit it. "It's not a shame. Gentlemen, magnanimous. Just say it if you have it. Old predecessors, I do have some doubts here." I know that Danbao has the natural power of all things, which can also be transformed into the power of life, but compared with me, there is a big gap. You are the protector of the power of life. Why did you choose Danbao? As soon as this sentence came out, the rest of the people also rose into the sky. I want to hear what's going on. The complexion of Lord Constant Wood was a bit embarrassing. Ukanshu. He did not expect that the old monk would become Danbao's protector. At the same time, there was a guess in my heart. It's just this guess, he doesn't want to admit it. It's okay for King Shenmu to arrive, as long as he is not Jian Wushuang's guardian, then he still has the possibility of entering Wanliu. This is in his favor. And he was also curious, why didn't he choose the better Jian Wushuang? Instead he chose a little man who didn't see the BRICs. An ordinary robbery. It is magical to have control over all innate things and transform them into life force. But compared with Jian Wushuang's innate life force, it was still much worse. The old monk saw that the people were also gathered, so he opened the chinchilla too. If you think so, it's actually quite right. After all, in this world, only the strong can dominate everything, but this is your idea, not the highest rule algorithm. This sentence shocked everyone. Thoughts of the strong. Master of the strong, isn't it right? Under the supreme rule, don't the strong survive? Seeing the doubts on the faces of the people, the old monk said again, I used to feel the same way as you did. The weak are regarded as ants, and the strong are the inductors of heaven and earth. But I later encountered an extraordinary existence. He can control the supreme rules, he is the true God, he has taught me the views, and also allowed me to see the nature of the world clearly. Nature. Everyone took a deep breath again. You all know the tribulation of the supreme rule, but who knows that there is no difference between the tribulation of the weak and the strong? This is the fairness of the supreme rule. In the eyes of the supreme rule, there is no predation of the weak, and that set is just for mortals. What an evil excuse. This time everyone's eyes were round. Chapter 58-97. Mortal excuses. The weak and the strong do not exist. This really shocked them all. Jian Wushuang, ask yourself, if you have the power of life, can you do good things and do good deeds? This sentence made Jian Wushuang sober. I see. He has mastered the power of life, only thinking about making himself stronger, and has never cared about the life and death of the weak. In other words, he has mastered the power of life, which is a waste. It's just because of his own strength that he can't get into the eyes of the gods after all. I didn't. He felt a little lost suddenly, and slowly shook his head. The old monk's expression moved, and he said calmly, that's right. I don't see hope in you. In my fate, there is only Danbao. This is why you lost. Your vitality does not come from the gift of the gods is nothing more than the power stolen. In short, you are not worthy to master the power of life. Yes. Jian Wushuang sighed secretly in his heart. He really doesn't deserve to master the power of life. When he first grasped the power of life, he would restrain himself from killing less. But it was later discovered that it couldn't be changed at all. And he never regarded the power of life as the end, he still wanted to swallow the power of death. To fuse the power of reincarnation. The old monk, if he is chosen, he will be blind. After some explanation, everyone understood. King Shenmu was also stunned. The ideal in my heart suddenly collapsed. He wanted to become a god, but found that he couldn't even cross the threshold. But now it is too late to change. Shenmu King was still a little unwilling. The Lord of Hongmu is okay, he has never thought about this, just wants to refine that treasure to a complete one, and it is enough to become the 9 tribulations realm. God. He hadn't thought about it. Jian Wushuang is the same. Never thought about it. Although a little disappointed, he was scolded. But thinking about it, there is no reason to refute it. Danbao also looked up at Jian Wushuang in a daze. He always believed that Jian Wushuang was a good person. Not because of the words of the old monk, Jian Wushuang had any change. His life was saved by Jian Wushuang and Wu Li. Before the elder was dying, he and Blue were also confessed to Jian Wushuang. Seeing Jian Wushuang being slapped, He was a little bit disappointed and came forward to comfort him. "I'm fine, but I want to congratulate you. With such a senior protector, the Great Elder is in the spirit of the sky. If you know, you will be very happy. Don't let the Great Elder disappointed." Jian Wushuang touched Dan Bao's head. "Sincere blessings." They thought that this was the end of the matter, and they could be regarded as hearing the big picture from the gods. But who came up with it? A staggering laugh drew everyone's attention to the top. Under the shining of the sun, a strangely dressed young man with white hair standing tall in the uppermost sky slowly descended. There is no meaning in the body. If the people present hadn't heard the laughter, they hadn't noticed anyone coming. Now on the field, there are two big 8 Tribulation Realm peak powerhouses. Even if the master of the 8 Tribulations realm came, they would be able to discover it. But he didn't find the person in front of him. Facing the sun, fell into the center of the crowd. Everyone was taken aback. Jian Wushuang even dropped his chin in shock. The person who came was no one else, but Wes in the Tower of 9 Tribulations. Or from his original universe. "How did you come out?" Jian Wushuang's eyes widened and pointed at Weiss. He originally thought that Wes could only be inside him. "I didn't expect to be able to come out." After seeing Jian Wushuang, Wes covered his mouth and found the familiar laughter. Everyone was a little puzzled. Only Jian Wushuang knew the identity of Weiss. The old monk stared at the outfit on Weiss, and there was no aura in Wes. His complexion suddenly changed. This is the same as any true he encountered back then, without breath. It's just that the person he met was a fat man. The person in front of him is tall and straight, neither fat nor thin. "Of course I can come out, seeing what you have said so much. If I don't come out again, I will be suffocated to death," Weiss said indifferently. After Jian Wushuang saw Weiss, he also reacted. The other person is also a god. Was able to see him, wouldn't he still save it? They are not mortals abandoned by the supreme rule. Weiss seemed to be able to see his thoughts, glanced at the people, then looked at the old monk, and said in a bad tone, "Did a fat blue man tell you the rhetoric you just made?" This sentence shocked the old monk. "Fat blue man. That's God. I was told by such a senior. Do you know him?" The old monk couldn't believe it. "You can still meet God. And it looks like, who knows him a little bit back then." After hearing this, Weiss nodded and said, "That's right, it should be the realm king of your northern spacetime, so he will be so boring, to pay attention to mortals." "The king of the north? What it is?" Jian Wushuang was also puzzled. "And I heard Bei Shikong. Could it be that the starry sky is also divided into north and east?" He thought that this is the long river of time and space. It diverged a lot. It seemed that what he saw was not true. Wes looked at Jian Wushuang at this time, and said in a serious tone, "I didn't want to come out, but the old monk's words are indeed too one-sided. They conveyed our original meaning wrong. Now I have to correct it." After speaking, he took out a very old book. "Now I represent. Well, I will represent some of your gods in north time and space. I can tell you clearly that the road to godhood is not single. There is a of life in life, and a of death in death. The of all things, his position is limited, and there are many ways to succeed. For the of life, the power of the weak is definitely not feasible, but for the of death, it is different. Of course, it is not for you to kill the right way. Everything there is the law of causation, faith in fate or fate. The place of God is wherever you are. If you want to succeed, you need a price and opportunity." Weiss said a whole series directly. Everyone was stunned. In short, it is to refute those words of the old monk just now. Of course there are also correct ones. For example, the of life really needs great love. There is no way to refute this. As Weiss said, life has a of life. Then death also has the of death. God's standard is not single. This is the one thing Jian Wushuang heard best for him. The bottom of my heart is also very happy. At least the road above is not blocked. Until now, he could be regarded as prying into a corner of this world. The endless starry sky, and the long river of time and space surrounding the starry sky. Where is the mysterious and unspeakable God? Where are you now? How far is the future that teacher Xuani said? But along the way, what he learned from teacher Xian Yi is called persistence. Chapter 58-98. His own way is not because of other people, but for yourself. Maybe he is really going to the end. The after the robbery is his direction. Well, I have finished talking, you can continue to fight. After Wes finished speaking, his figure turned into a rainbow, assimilated with the space. Completely disappeared. Standing in front of them, they couldn't feel the breath of Weiss. Let alone after leaving. No one knows where Weiss has gone. But they knew that Jian Wushuang and Weiss knew each other. Friend Wushuang, do you know such a great god? Shenmu Wang now believes that Jian Wushuang's background is not simple. Although the old monk was a bit stiff, he was stunned by Weiss this time, but he also recognized Jian Wushuang. Weiss was right. The information he received was relatively single. Jian Wushuang was stunned for a moment, then looked at the crowd, smiled awkwardly, and said, "Don't be nervous, he won't come out again, he just met by chance." He didn't shamelessly go to navvies to scare them. When Wes left, he said it. "Feel free to shoot. People here, when they die, he won't care." Just corrected those words of the old monk. At the same time, the title of Realm King was also mentioned. This was the first time Jian Wushuang heard it. The King Shenmu had known for a long time. The Lord of Eternal Wood also knows a little bit. They are the powerhouses, but now they are not ready to make another move. Instead, they discussed things about God. "Everyone, I propose that we speak out all the things about God, exchange the information that each other knows, and then talk about the rest." King Shenmu took the lead. The old monk even agreed. Lord Hungmu hesitated, and nodded in agreement. Then they looked at Jian Wushuang one after another. Jian Wushuang naturally had no reason to refuse. He also wanted to know the rumors about God. And he knows Weiss, this is the biggest bargaining chip. Laro Tsu first said, "I did know the Realm King among the large population just now. It was a matter among the willows. I was studying the rules of the 9 Tribulations realm and it attracted the attention of the Realm King." The old monk said very delicately. Everyone listened intently. The old monk was originally an aboriginal powerhouse in the sacred tree of Wanliu, and he was a special life. There is no need to cross the robbery. So I can delve into the rules of the 9 Tribulations realm and want to break through. But how easy it is. No breakthrough was found. He went crazy, slaughtering the common people in the 10,000 willow sacred tree, plundering all resources to strengthen himself. Want to break through all laws with one effort. This scene happened to be seen by Lord Jie Wang. So the lower bound reminded him. He was also appointed as the protector of the of life. Bei Shi Kong. Contains 9 major time and space. The deity of life is missing. This position will appear in the future. It is the future at that time. It's now. Then there is the present thing. After the old monk finished speaking, it was the turn of the Lord Hungmu. He didn't know much about God. But the way to becoming a is to know a little bit. The road to becoming a god. In the Wanliu Shenmu. However, the Lord of Hungmu was obviously not very concerned about this. Never thought of becoming a god. I just want the treasure that will be snatched by Shenmu King. This treasure is also related to the road to godhood. It was when he strayed down the road in Wanliu that he discovered this treasure. Later, he took advantage of this treasure to take the old monk, the 2 war beasts, and thousands of powerful men to leave Wanliu Shenmu. From the words of the Lord of Constant Wood, Jian Wushuang realized that the Lord of Hungmu was originally the indigenous powerhouse in Wanliu. It just used the name of a small trash fish from the outside world. At the beginning, there were many strong people who entered Wanliu Divine Realm. A master of the universe in the 3 Tribulations realm followed the large forces into the 10,000 Willows Divine Realm. Then fell and disappeared. He was replaced by the current Lord of Hungmu. Shenmu King and the old monk have known about it for a long time. Jian Wushuang also had speculation before. It was when Wu Li was the last to react. Speaking of which, he is also an indigenous powerhouse in Wanliu Nei. It was the Lord of Hungmu who saw that he was a child, so he didn't stay. in the enchantment arranged by the old monk. After the Lord of Hungmu had finished speaking, they turned their heads to look at King Shenmu. As Guu time and space, one of the oldest 8 tribulations realm powerhouse Shenmu King. The one who knows should be the most. Thanks Tusk, what the old man knows is actually similar to what Hungmu knows, but there are some rumors that you may not know. Shenmu King paused, and then said, the creator of Guu time and space, you should know that she is the former goddess, the powerhouse of the 9 tribulations realm. If you say she is a god, I also believe it, but it should be a creation god. Yes, although I did not meet each other, but at the beginning, I entered the core of the origin of time and space together with the first pope and others of the ancient moon sect. In it, we saw the body of the goddess. She did not really fall, but her origin. As the origin of Guu time and space, it belongs to fusion with this world. This matter, in fact, is something that everyone knows at the top. It satisfies the low-level little people like Jian Wushuang. From the first time he entered Guu time and space, he met a goddess and blocked them. There is speculation that the other party may not have fallen. Even the 7 tribulations realm can plan things after death. Not to mention a great power in the 9 tribulations realm. There must be some ulterior secrets. What Shenmu Wang said was very casual. At the beginning, the goddess just told them that there was a in the 9 tribulations. And God is not only divided into types, also divided into ranks. It's just this level, how to divide it, I don't know. After hearing the words of King Shenmu, they felt that King Shenmu was the same as what he hadn't said. Since it was a wave of information exchange before the war, it all depends on personal sincerity. It's hard for anyone to ask more. Maybe you will die afterwards. In the end, everyone's eyes converged on Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang is making up stories in his heart. Seeing everyone looking at them, they coughed twice, and said, my story. I don't know much about it. You must know that I am not a local powerhouse in Gua time and space, I coming from the other side of the starry sky, somewhere closer to the land of the gods, by chance, I met. Although his story is a bit outrageous. But everyone was stunned without doubt. Still listening to it tastefully. Jian Wushuang himself admired his story ability. In short, he met Weiss because of his great achievements in the future, and Weiss is a little who invested in him in advance. I just ordered him a few times. Shenmu Wang listened intently, and asked a little curiously, Wu Shuang de Oist, I don't know this Master Weiss, has you ever said where is your path to becoming a god? Chapter 5899. This can't be said, he who should come will eventually come. Jian Wushuang pretended to be deep. Everyone nodded again and again. People present. The Lord of Eternal Wood is for treasures. Shenmu Wang is to become a god. The old monk is a protector of the Tao, and he walks for the sake of protecting the Tao. All have a clear purpose. Then Jian Wushuang had lost all his goals. I want to leave here now. Let them fight in a few ways. Dan Bao has a protector, and he doesn't need his protection anymore. Wu Li even found a relative. Although I don't know why this relative is a monk, he has a great backer after all. On the contrary, he didn't get anything this time. But the goal of coming to Wanliu, he completed ahead of schedule. It can be said to be the master of the universe in one fell swoop. This is also considered a profit. The old monk saw that he had said everything that should be said, and waved his hand to remove the barrier. The elders of the ancient wood school don't know anything. Thought these big brothers were in peace talks. Whoever thinks, just as the barrier disappeared, the old monk fought against the Lord of Hungmu. The Shenmu king next to him was frightened. The Lord of Hungmu exploded one after another, but his divine power, even if it was restored to its peak, could not hold back the current old monk. Ph, you should have been killed long ago. The old monk shouted angrily, standing upright. The light on his body enveloped the entire world. The left Yehue and the white right eye were right beside the Lord of Constant Wood, and quickly helped the Lord of Constant Wood resist the attack from the old monk. In order not to be affected, Jian Wushuang hurriedly backed away. Wu Li on the side was even quicker, and backed with him. There are also Bru and Dan Bao. The Shunmu king who had reacted looked at Dan Bao and then at the old monk. At the bottom of my heart, I don't know what I'm planning. The old monk unilaterally suppressed the two war beasts. The two war beasts simply couldn't hold it. The Lord of Hungmu was also a little panicked, and his heart was very confused. He didn't understand why the old monk hated him so much. The matter of enslavement is actually personal hatred. Now the old monk is already a protector, there is no need to kill him. No. Lord Hungmu reacted at this moment. The mysterious treasure in Dan Bao's body resonated with his treasure. If a little guy can't find it, doesn't it mean that the old monk, the protector, doesn't know? Thinking of this, he figured it out, and hurriedly shouted at King Shunmu, "King Shunmu, this great monk is for my treasure. If I die, you alone will never be an opponent." This sentence awakened the Shunmu king. He also went to open Wanliu for the treasures of Hungmu and walked the path of becoming a god. After reacting, a grin leaked out of his face, and he immediately rushed to Jian Wushuang and the others. The old monk stopped in an instant. His plan is still a bit sloppy. I thought that Hungmu could be solved quickly, but I still underestimated the two war beasts. Had to come back to protect Dan Bao. But at this moment, an afterimage dashed across the sky, and then a huge spaceship descended. It was still afterimages just now, and it became real in an instant. Below the universe, there is also a great behemoth standing. Hum. The ancient bells were accompanied by the roar of wild beasts and the deafening roar. When Shunmu King shot, he had not yet reached Jian Wushuang's front. The old monk was only one step short of being in front of them. Which powerful beast with a sense of oppression hits in an instant? The red skin, the regular lines on the chest, and the terrifying breath of supernatural power. Just for an instant, he was in front of Jian Wushuang. King Shunmu was also stunned at this time, but how could the fist that went out be retracted? I just wanted to directly attack this mysterious powerhouse who broke in. Divine power also erupted in an instant. Originally, he didn't need such a powerful divine power to deal with Jian Wushuang and others. Facing the sudden mysterious powerhouse with one hand, there was a trace of anxiety in his heart. So directly used the peak power. But such a punch hit the face of the mysterious strong man, but the other party didn't move at all. King Shunmu was completely stunned. Roll. With an angry shout, the mysterious and powerful breath broke out, directly shaking the Shunmu king out of thousands of miles. Even the old monk who hurried over was shaken back. The bottom of my heart can't help but shock who came. From those exchanges just now, he has a rough idea of the current Guyue spacetime pattern. Shunmu King is already the pinnacle powerhouse, the even more powerful masters of the Eight Tribulations realm universe. The master of the universe is the original universe, and the Eight Tribulations realm can carry the original universe with an additional dojo to fight. Divine power multiplied. But no matter how he looked at it, he couldn't see that there was a dojo here. But the other party was able to scream out and shook him and Shunmu Wang back. Everyone was extremely shocked. Especially Wu Li, who just joked how invincible his own father was. When I saw this scene, my face froze. The Lord of Hungmu, who was protected by the two great beasts, was staring at the spaceship above him, and he was familiar with this breath. And it's still an old acquaintance. But I didn't expect that this former deceased would have such a powerful helper. When he was outside the Eternal Realm, he obviously only felt the breath of the Eight Tribulations realm. How come it is so strong now? Obviously surpassed the divine power of the Eight Tribulations realm. reading www.ukanshu.com. Bulu pulled Dan Bao, also extremely nervous. Too many things happened this day. The Great Elder has fallen. He and Dan Bao were forced into exile. I just had a protector. I thought it would be more peaceful in the future. But what followed was a more powerful threat. He is now a perfect dragon warrior. But facing that back figure, he still couldn't breathe. With a strong sense of oppression, let alone Baloo, Jian Wushuang couldn't help backing up. His complexion was even greener. That back. There are sharp long thorns behind. He can't forget. It's over. This time it's a big game. I forgot the most difficult person for a while. He didn't need to look at the spaceship above, he knew that it was Emperor Barbie. Because the Dao appeared here. Kai Jiuxiao. Death Giant Clan. Without any hesitation, he turned around and was about to use 3-shock universe to prepare to escape, but was blocked by another familiar figure. Soul Emperor. Seeing Jian Wushuang's horrified eyes, Soul Tiandi said with disdain, Jian Wushuang, I originally envied you, but why are you so ignorant and dare to betray Lord Bobby? As soon as he finished speaking, he fisted. Jian Wushuang directly performed the super-eternal transformation, his divine power directly exceeded 2 million, his hands were protected in front of his chest, and he resisted this punch. Boom! Hard resistance came down, and the divine body began to break. Fortunately, he doesn't need to conceal the power of life, and he can quickly recover as no one is left. Thanks Tusk, the power of life is really amazing. After taking a punch, the Soul Tiandi didn't make another move, but retreated, reaching the edge of the cosmic arc, and bowed to look at the hatch. Chapter 5900. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. The other party is addicted to being a dog. But even for the worst, Barbie Di will not move him either. But it's hard for others to say. Before Barbie Emperor came out, he wanted to transmit the sound to the old monk and the Shenmue King. But he hasn't waited for his voice transmission. The other party has found him. Cooperate. 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 The 3 parties reached an agreement in an instant. Then he looked at the Lord of Hungmu. Nodded in the same way. He pulled Dan Bao and approached the old monk. The old monk is Dan Bao's guardian anyway, and he is more willing to trust the other person. Shenmue King and Hungmu Lord also followed with others. Kai Jiuxiao ignored it, his task was to stop the fight. The cabin door of the spaceship opened. Swish. Several figures walked out of the hatch neatly, and then stood in 2 groups. Waiting for the appearance of Barbie Di. No one else can do it at this level. Seeing these people, the elders of the Jiu Mu sect could no longer stand. All are acquaintances. And when they felt the breath on their bodies, their faces solidified. At this time Jian Wushuang and the others also found the strangeness. Could it be that the secret method has been created? He couldn't believe it. If it is really created, then all the robberies will become the dogs of Bobby Di. At the same time he also thought of Weiss. And what the old monk said. The road to becoming a god. It does not seem to be walking alone. There is also Barbie Di. Jie. Before the person came out, he let out a strange laugh. Following this, a small, thin and big head walked out of the cabin. However, under his feet, there was a floating frisbee. Needless to say, this person is Barbie Di. There was still a golden light shining on her body. It looks like a mask of supernatural power. Walking out with Barbie Di is the familiar Dylan. However, the current Dylan, the divine aura is not weak, the sole heavenly emperor. It has become the test product of Barbie Di, and the first person on the road to resurrection. Be regarded as a forerunner. I think this guy is average. The old monk glanced at Emperor Bobby with disdain, but he was most afraid of Kai Jiuxiao. Jian Wushuang didn't hide it from them either, and he was about to tell the whole story about Bobby Emperor. The Lord of Eternal Wood should be aware of it, and he was not surprised. Although King Shenmue knew a thing or two, it was also before Emperor Bobby did not recover Kai Jiuxiao. At first I thought that the disappearance of the Eternal Kingdom was just a small matter. Unexpectedly, such a character appeared. Resurrection. King Shenmue was stunned at once. Someone can do this kind of thing. Isn't it a god? Jian Wushuang actually regretted it when he finished speaking. He was really afraid that the Shenmue King would rekindle the road of cultivation in order to resurrect, and join forces with Emperor Barbie to deal with them. But he still underestimated King Shenmue. Shenmue Wang thought he thought about this kind of thing. It's just that he doesn't have a Bobby Di pattern. To resurrect, I just think that I can resurrect and become a god. Everyone, it's better not to tell me about this matter, otherwise we will be the enemy of all Sanjia. Jian Wushuang reminded everyone in a low voice. The old monk said in surprise, it's not so exaggerated. Resurrection is not that easy. Only after becoming a can it be done. The breath of that Bobby Emperor is very ordinary, and it should not be a god. It's not now, doesn't mean it won't be in the future. The Lord of Hungmu said at this time, the road that Emperor Bobby has to take is actually very simple. He is walking on the road of a half-god. He wants the demon to become a half by faith. We'll think of the way to resurrection. Jian Wushuang nodded secretly, and heard something he hadn't heard before. There is even a demigod who said that. But think about it. Barbie Di has no vitality. It has nothing to do with the of life. The of life, mastering life, can naturally resurrect. Now there is no of life in Bei Shikong, so the road to the robbery is broken. That way, the road is complete. King Shenmu is also weighing himself. If the resurrection is related to the of life, isn't it the best plan for him to turn his head to take refuge in Danbao now? Fight for yourself, hope is slim. Now there is another common enemy. Kai Jiuxiao alone can beat all of them. How to fight for this? It's better to follow the old monk and wait for Danbao to become a god, and he will be able to rekindle the path of cultivation. Just abandoning his plan, he can only practice slowly. The Lord of Hungmu is originally a special being, not the Lord of the universe. Naturally, there is no need for rebirth. He followed purely tossing about, but he was reluctant to take his own treasure. My heart was also shaken. But if he took refuge in Bobby, he would have no way out. Babidi wouldn't help him. And he doesn't have enough chips. For a time, everyone had their own ghosts. Only Jian Wushuang was very passive. He didn't know what he was doing here. If these people need his life force, go to Open Wanliu. He is willing to cooperate. Then give each of them a large amount of life force, just hope that they can leave safely. But this idea is too naive. Barbie Di was embraced by the crowd for the first time, and came to the crowd, just like watching a clown, staring at the crowd and saying, I will give you two paths now, one to cooperate and the other to die. This sentence is very familiar. It is similar to what Shenmu Wang said at the beginning. It's just a bit more domineering. How old are you? The old monk's temper burst, and he couldn't listen to it, so he directly retorted. Emperor Bobby frowned, and Kai Jiuxiao next to him rushed over immediately. The old monk's aura suddenly exploded, surpassing tens of millions of divine powers, and resisted Kai Jiuxiao. But after only holding on for a while, Kai Jiuxiao fisted and flew out. King Shenmu quickly stepped forward to help. You can't watch it now, you can't be broken one by one. King Hungmu is the most chicken thief, let his right eye be blank to help King Shenmu and the old monk. With Zhuo Yehue with him, he wanted to sneak attack on Emperor Bobby. At the same time, he called Bru. Bulu gave Jian Wushuang a look and motioned to protect Danbao. Incarnate directly in the form of a true dragon, exploding with more than 2 million divine powers to attack Barbie Di. Jian Wushuang shook his head secretly. He has been paying attention to the divine shield of Bobby Emperor. It must be extraordinary to be able to stand in front of them like this. It is not so easy to attack Bobby Di. Just the Soul Heaven Emperor and Dylan, the 2-8 Tribulations realm combat power, is a difficult point. Emperor Barbie did not panic when he saw the Lord of Hungmu rushing with people, and said calmly, You get out of the way and let him fight. Hungmu and Bulu have similar powers. They all look like more than 2 million. The shield against Barbie Di is similar to Gua Sho. Zhuo Yehue, the top divine power of the 8 Tribulations realm, did not respond to his fierce attack on the shield. Chapter 5901. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang also had an expectation in his heart. It seems that I have to go on a horse this time. He flipped his palm, took out a token, and shouted, Kai Jiuxiao, you know this thing. This token was given to him by Froza. It's useful as long as you encounter the giant gods. I don't know if Kai Jiuxiao, who is under control, will recognize it. The moment he took out the token, Kai Jiuxiao was taken aback for a moment, and then stopped attacking. Shenmu King and the old monk did not dare to take the opportunity to sneak attack. It is true that neither of them can shake Kai Jiuxiao. Following his gaze, he looked at Jian Wushuang. Woo! The moment Kai Jiuxiao saw the token, his eyes burst, and then he wailed painfully while holding his head. There was a trace of consciousness, tearing him apart. The originally calm Bobby Emperor saw this place, and suddenly panicked. His biggest trump card is Kai Jiuxiao on the bright side. Kai Jiuxiao had a problem, and he was finished. Kai Jiuxiao. Emperor Bobby rushed towards Kai Jiuxiao regardless. But the crazy Kai Jiuxiao suddenly increased his aura, almost breaking through the Nine Tribulations realm. Both the Shenmue King and the old monk backed back again and again. Emperor Bobby, who rushed forward, was shaken away by Kai Jiuxiao with a casual wave. Cracks appeared on the shields. Knowing that the situation is serious, Emperor Barbie hurriedly shouted at the soul of the emperor and the others, "Go and kill Jian Wushuang." The soul Tiandi and others naturally did not dare to hesitate, and rushed over immediately. But he was stopped by Zhu Yi alone. The soul Tiandi and the others retreated. Trash! Bobby Emperor yelled angrily. The Shenmue King and the old monk also turned around at this time and rushed towards the Emperor Barbie. They also knew that by killing Emperor Barbie, the threat of Kai Jiuxiao was gone. Jian Wushuang found a flash on the token, as if erasing a mark. Not good. He quickly put away the token. But it was still too late. Kai Jiuxiao completely erased his identity of the giant race from the token. This is not because he is controlled by the token. But there is the cause and effect of the giants above. He wants to remove the cause and effect. Now the cause and effect is lifted. Will not be restricted. Emperor Bobby's order also completely entered Kai Jiuxiao's consciousness. Kill everyone. The sky burst instantly. Kai Jiuxiao directly dragged Shenmue King and the old monk back with one hand. Jian Wushuang swallowed, and secretly said, "You won't be killed." He felt he was going to die now. There is absolutely no whole cards to use. Escape and can't escape. Wise. The last straw. On the Tianqing mountain of the origin universe. Jian Wushuang's incarnation descended. Before he could speak, Weiss spoke his thoughts. "I won't help anyone." The decisive refusal made Jian Wushuang completely desperate. There is no room for negotiation. Weiss saw Jian Wushuang, whose face turned into pig liver, and said, "However, I can give you an idea. Who is the candidate for the life next to you? He is your life-saving straw. What do you say?" Jian Wushuang hurriedly approached. "It's very simple. You tell that Barbie Di, as long as you help Dan Bao become the of life, you can create a perfect path to resurrection." This is a normal thing in other time and space, Weiss said indifferently, but Jian Wushuang was stumped. Valley, he didn't believe this when he said it. How could Barbie Di believe it? And still have to protect Dan Bao? Why don't you try it yourself? No, this old fox will definitely not believe what I said. Jian Wushuang shook his head helplessly. Weiss also kept silent and moved him out directly. Jian Wushuang was speechless. This is his universe. As a result, he was moved out like an outsider. But when he went out, Weiss' voice rang in his ears. "Before you die, I will move you out." This is a quick-acting heart-saving pill. With this sentence, it is equivalent to saving one's life. The whole person relaxed in an instant. But Weiss added another sentence later. "My appearance fee is very expensive. To help you once, you need to drop a level." This sentence may not be believed by others, but Jian Wushuang is 100% sure this is not a joke. Just after relaxing, it withered in an instant. But from Weiss, one thing is known anyway. That is the sign of Danbao becoming a god. Perhaps the power of resurrection could be automatically unfolded. If this matter is told to Barbie Di, then it will be over. Dan Bao became the of life, and he was able to embark on the road to resurrection. What about Bobby Di? Then the clown will be Bobby Di. He can only find a breakthrough from other directions. Kai Jiuxiao, who has no worries, is invincible. No matter how powerful the old monk and the Shenmue King were, they couldn't stand it. But Emperor Bobby was very excited. This was Kai Jiuxiao's first real shot. In the past, it was just a little joke. Can't get on the table. Now Kai Jiuxiao is getting stronger as it fights, Even if the Lord of the Eight Tribulations realm comes, it won't work. Throughout the ancient moon time and space, no one on Com can stop his resurrection plan. Emperor Bobby, Lord Hungmu said at this time. Jian Wushuang froze for a moment, feeling that the other party was going to turn back, ready to retreat at any time. Hungmu, don't worry. Emperor Bobby grinned. He couldn't forget the incident that had just been attacked by Hungmu. Haha, I'm not in a hurry. I'm afraid it's you who will be in a hurry. The Lord of Eternal Wood did not show weakness, and there was madness in his eyes. If you don't fight now, you will really be dead. The white of his right eye had been severely injured several times, and then Dan Bao was resuscitated and re-entered the battle. The same goes for Zhuo Yehui. If this continues, they will die. Seeing that the Lord of Hungmu was so confident, Emperor Bobby was also interested, and said sarcastically, "Oh, it seems that you still have a whole card, you might as well show it up." "I don't know how to live or die." The Lord of Hungmu looked cold, raised his left hand and drew it directly to his chest. This scene really made no one think of it. Jian Wushuang was also taken aback. "Hungmu, it's really unnecessary. It's a big deal and die together. You don't have to commit suicide." So crazy, Jian Wushuang also felt the sadness of the rabbit and the fox. "I want to persuade you." But whoever came to think, the Lord of Hungmu, escaped a broken ball in his chest. "Don't talk." The Lord of Hungmu was almost crying. He held the ball in one hand and covered the wound with the other, panting heavily, turning his head to Dan Bao and said, "You kid, if you succeed in the future, if you are the god of life, you must remember the sacrifice I made for you today, and the position of the gods must be given to me, or I will bring this treasure to death." Divine envoy. Dan Bao didn't know what it was. Jian Wushuang didn't know this either. But being able to let Lord Hungmu do this kind of thing is obviously very special. Chapter 5902. The old monk, who was struggling to resist Kai Jiuxiao, his eyes widened when he heard the envoy. He knows this best. The place of God. There is more than one person. Taoist protectors can also follow God and walk the path of God. But it is not a true God, but a demigod. To put it simply, it means that one person can ascend to heaven. If Dan Bao has become the of life, then the old monk, the protector, can become a demigod protector. Below the guardian, there are some positions. Be regarded as the messenger of God. However, the location is limited. Equally precious. Little Lord, promise him. The old monk was not stingy at this time. Originally such a good thing, if there were no external threats, he would definitely not share it with these people. But now Bobby Di has come out to disrupt the situation. It's different. After Dan Bao heard the old monk's words, he didn't know what to do. You can only take the oath of life first. Hearing that Dan Bao had made his life oath, Lord Hungmu was cruel and threw the treasure directly to Dan Bao. Swallow it. This treasure is your key to becoming a god. When the Lord of Hungmu said this, his heart was bleeding. This treasure was an opportunity for him to become the Nine Tribulations realm. Now I can only give up. However, the position of the divine envoy is actually pretty good. Although it is under the fence, it is a position after all. Many masters of the Eight Tribulations realm universe don't have the qualifications to want it. And Dan Bao's character, he was looking at it. Following such a of life, the future is also very free. After Dan Bao took the treasure, he swallowed it directly without hesitation. The crippled orb circulated crazily in Dan Bao's body. Dan Bao's natural power of all things instantly became the innate life force. This powerful life force is purer than Jian Wushuang's. Dan Bao's figure also grew a lot taller in an instant, and there was a wave of vigor at the center of his eyebrows. Turning his head to look at the seriously injured old monk and King Shunmu, he flipped his hand and took out a deadwood scepter, pointed towards the sky, and said loudly, "Shenghui Nebula." Hum. The world changes. Everyone felt a touch of warmth in themselves. Except for those of Barbie Dismen. Together with the elders of the Jiu Mu sect, they all found a powerful life force in their body. This force can not only restore his vitality, but also allow them to increase their combat power in a short time. The same goes for the Shunmu king and the old monk. The divine power had already regressed after being seriously injured. But under this nebula, divine power instantly boiled. The combat power has also been upgraded to a notch. For a time, he was able to share the same color with Kai Jiuxiao. Is this the god of life? Shunmu Wang exclaimed. At the same time, the treasure in his body also began to resonate. Reminiscent of what the Lord Hungmu did just now. He understood in an instant. This treasure. In other words, this is a true treasure. Is the key to becoming a god. He already knew this. But now he understands that what doesn't belong to him does not belong to him. With a ruthless heart, he chose the old path of Lord Hungmu. The treasure that he grabbed directly from Hungmu was forcibly pulled out of his divine body. Brother Danbao, it's up to you this time. Shunmu Wang was more assured of Danbao's character, and directly said that the treasure was thrown to Danbao without any conditions. The place of the gods. In fact, for him, the improvement is limited. But resurrection, he has great interest. Cooperating with Bobby Di is to be a dog. But if you invest in Danbao, that's different. Not only will they get married, but they can also be treated equally. They still distinguish between good and bad. Valley following Danbao, at least the dignity of the past can be retained. The strong, this is the most important thing. Although King Shunmu lost his treasure, his combat power did not decrease in any way. Treasures are used to cultivate divine power. The divine power promotes the basic divine power. Treasures are only a way to improve after all. Dan Bao took the treasure thrown by Shunmu King. Both hands couldn't help shaking. Jian Wushuang looked a little eagerly from the side. A beam of purest green light rose into the sky. At this moment, Dan Bao illuminates the whole world. The source of life. Jian Wushuang stared at the source of Dan Bao's body. Originally Dan Bao had no origin. But at this moment, it is the core of the origin. The treasure that the Lord of Eternal Wood has high hopes is truly complete in Dan Bao. Kai Jiuxiao, don't worry about those two wastes, kill this kid first. Emperor Bobby found something wrong. He came from the stars and knew more about God. The Buddha's light on the old monk's body was so great, his hands stretched out to directly block Kai Jiuxiao's path. It's shameful to be a mortal body, like a demigod, but to be a dog like a monkey. The old monk sneered and wanted to provoke Kai Jiuxiao and leave him behind. But Kai Jiuxiao took this set, punching the sky, directly smashing the old monk who once again raised his supernatural power. King Shunmu wanted to step forward, but was also blasted out. They can resist Kai Jiuxiao, but it is almost impossible to stop Kai Jiuxiao. Seeing that Kai Jiuxiao was about to rush towards Dan Bao, Bru couldn't stand anymore, and the real dragon incarnate was about to slay out. But Jian Wushuang stopped him. You stay, I'll go. His eyes were determined, didn't know what it was for at this moment. But just stand up. Maybe it's because of the words of the great elder back then. There are also those that the old monk said. God's path is not single, but very specific. What you say and what you do. The unity of knowing and doing. Kang. Jian Wushuang took a step forward, drew out the sword of 10,000 tribulations, and faced the terrifying Kai Jiuxiao without a trace of fear. At this moment, the increase in his body reached its peak. The origin universe is here in an instant. The super-eternal change has also reached its peak. Divine power is as high as 2 million. 100,000 black holes in the origin universe are operating at the same time, raising his origin to its peak. Life. Die. The two horrible sword intents reached the peak and gathered in the body of the sword of 10,000 tribulations. The sword of 10,000 tribulations, from an unpredictable angle, condensed two powerful sword intents together. The instant change triggered an irreversible force. That power is spinning. No one was convinced of each other. Both want to swallow the other party. But no one can kill anyone. This vortex instantly condensed to the tip of the sword. Jian Wuming is even more hideous. He still can't fully grasp this power even now. This is the true power of reincarnation. Starry Sky Catalogue, the Third Sword. Reincarnation. This one is not a fierce killing of kendo. It was a terrible destruction. Reincarnation is building. Destruction is rising. The sword of myriad tribulations slashed, and what was emitted was a huge whirlpool. Immediately moved all the surrounding areas to the flat ground. This force directly reached the 8 tribulations realm. The rushing Kai Jiuxiao stretched out his hand to block, but was unable to interfere with this vortex. Chapter 5903. The figure sank directly into it. What is this? The Shunmu king who rushed over was shocked. The power of life is already very precious. But another force turned out to be death. Life is precious. What about death? If life is a catastrophe, the vitality is the pinnacle of all things. Then death is the end of everything. The collision between the start point and the end point. Condensed strength. It's not simple reciprocity. The power reversed by both sides is enough to deter all 8 tribulations realm. Shunmu King's eyes flashed, looking at Jian Wushuang. Apart from amazement in the bottom of my heart, I was surprised. There is a fluke. Fortunately, he and Jian Wushuang are now in a cooperative relationship. Otherwise, this trick would fall on his head. The old monk was different from the Shunmu King. When he saw this power, the first thing he thought of was reincarnation. Because I know the of life better. I thought of a position that was one level higher than the of life. Reincarnation. If Jian Wushuang had mastered reincarnation, it would be exactly the same as Weiss said. God is not single, Jian Wushuang still has hope. This is the best proof. One sword reincarnation. From letting you live to letting you die. All under this sword. Kai Jiuxiao at the center of the vortex was completely trapped. Life and death, both turned into sword shadows, constantly revolving around Kai Jiuxiao frantically. No matter how Kai Jiuxiao destroys the attack, he can't break it open. After seeing this, Emperor Bobby was completely stunned. Not because Kai Jiuxiao was trapped. But he was surprised that Jian Wushuang had developed the power of reincarnation before he mastered the power of death. In fact, this power of reincarnation is not pure. Because Jian Wushuang's life force is too strong now, the death force condensed is the death force of the next day, and it is very weak. If you want to converge into the power of reincarnation, the power of the two must be unified. Simply put, it is the same power to fuse. If one party is strong, one party is weak. It will fail. If Jian Wushuang's power of death is as powerful as the power of life. The sword of reincarnation he used. Don't talk about Kai Jiuxiao. Even when God comes, you have to get down. But that is a long way. At least it cannot be resolved for now. Jian Wushuang, have you swallowed extinction? Barbie Di asked incredulously. In his opinion, only by swallowing death can reincarnation be condensed. Jian Wushuang at this time didn't even have the effort to breathe. How can I explain this to Bobby Di? With this sword, he forcibly increased his power. Had it not been for the strength of the source, he would have died of exhaustion long ago. Fortunately, Danbao's Shenghui Nebula has been shining on him so that he can persist until now. Danbao, how long do you need? He gritted his teeth and turned to look at Danbao. The other party is still gathering the source of life. But he was almost gone. This sword could not kill Kai Jiuxiao. He can only trap each other first. But Jian Wushuang, with limited abilities, had a hard time getting trapped. Benefactor, let him come. Dan Bao held the scepter, his expression indifferent, without a trace of fear. It seems that at this moment, he really becomes the of life. Seeing the other party's calmness, Jian Wushuang naturally didn't want to hold on. However, it is possible to take the opportunity to truly condense the Samsara sword. See how Valent is. He raised his breath to control the two sword shadows and forcibly merged together. Valley the vortex also disappeared at this moment. Kai Jiuxiao also rushed outrageously. But this time he will not face the whirlpool. It is a real sword of reincarnation. The destruction of reincarnation in the whirlpool is just some debris. This is the real sword of reincarnation. The huge sword shadow faced Kai Jiuxiao directly. The mighty power can kill the 8 tribulations realm. Shunmu King and the old monk felt a little bit of fear. But Kai Jiuxiao raised his hand to block, trying to shake off the sword of reincarnation. Just like this, it shattered his arm. Kai Jiuxiao was taken aback for a moment. This was the first time that he was injured. Then he got serious. He directly held the reincarnation sword with both hands. The divine power exploded, and he forcibly stopped the samsara sword. There was a loud shout, shaking for 9 days. Those 7 tribulation realm powerhouses who were still on the way were suppressed. They looked sideways at Wanliu divine realm. The countless strong men in the 9 heavens and 10 earth also heard this roar. In the dark, several 8 tribulations realm came out, feeling the vibration from the ancient wood continent. I have already transmitted the voice message to King Shunmu, and the other party has never responded. It seems that something happened to Wn Liu. Thanks Tusk, Wn Liu has a lot of involvement. The old man has to go and have a look, this time in retreat for such a long time, just to go out for a stroll. King Yi Xiao, do you go there in person? The most in 9 days. Daytime. The base camp of the ancient moon gods. After feeling the shock from the ancient wood continent, the contemporary pope also walked out of the retreat. The pope of this generation is a woman. The face is not stunning. His face does not have the majesty of an emperor. But there is an unusual temperament. She slowly walked towards the top of Gua Shinshan, and looked at Gumu continent with her head up, with a trace of melancholy in her eyes. What you see? Not Wanliu. It is a terrifying existence, which is slowly growing. Who is it that is shrouded in Gumu continent? Pope Jiu shook his head and sighed, even she couldn't see through. She is the real master of the 8 tribulations realm universe. It is almost the invincible existence of Jiu time and space. Even she can't see through it. If an outsider knows it, it will definitely cause panic. The vibration in the 9 days has printed many old guys. Among the 10 places, the same is true. Ancient moon ruins. Hui Qing in the core land also felt that terrifying aura rising, and she felt uneasy in her heart. Hey, brother Wu Shuang, I really shouldn't have been here. Hui Qing shook his head, playing with Buddhist beads in his hands. It can be seen that he is still not in the robbery realm. Still an emperor. Not only did it not grow, but it was also a lot weaker. The whole person is a little haggard. Jiu time and space, ranked another among the top 3 horror relics. Wuhua secret realm. One person here also noticed the matter of Gumu continent. He squinted his eyes and looked in the direction of Gumu continent, and there was also a trace of anxiety in his heart. Behind him, there was a man with a yellow robe and a high crown. While drinking heavily, he asked vaguely, "Old man of the world, after I retreat this time, is there anything new in the outside world? For example, which one of me is unparalleled? Brother, how is he? King of the world. If you let the GUU time-space expert from the outside world know, I'm afraid you will be shocked. Which man with a yellow robe and high crown is actually called the old man of the world king? Hey, your little brother, it's not easy right now, and there has been a terrifying existence in Gumu continent. This terrifying existence is growing divinely, and it will be a threat to the entire GUU time and space in the future. You kids should hurry up. Cultivate. We have to leave GUU time and space after we finish our cultivation. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.